I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the tragic, cold-blooded murder of a celebrity hairstylist named Fabio Sementilli. The two men who took his life have been caught, but prosecutors believe his wife was also part of the conspiracy and was sleeping with one of the killers. Here's the story.
My uncle Fabio Sementilli had been murdered in his own backyard. He was stabbed to death. And his wife, Monica Sementilli, was screaming through the phone. They killed him.
Fabio Sementilli was a celebrated hairdresser and vice president of education at Coty, one of the world's largest beauty companies.
I've traveled the world, and I've been so fortunate. I don't deserve any of this.
Fabio Sementilli's life was cut short at 49 years old on January 23rd, 2017. The father of three was stabbed while watching TV in his backyard. According to court documents, the scene was staged to look like a burglary, but prosecutors say it was his wife, Monica Sementilli, who orchestrated the murder, and her lover, Robert Baker, killed him with the help of Christopher Austin. Austin has pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. Sementilli and Baker were charged with murder and conspiracy to commit a crime. Baker pleaded no contest in July of 2023.
You further admit as to that count the allegation under Penal Section 1222, Subsection B, Subsection 1, that you personally used a deadly and dangerous weapon, to wit, a knife, in the commission of this offense. Yes.
Baker, a convicted sex offender, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He says Monica Sementilli, who pleaded not guilty, is innocent.
We are confident that Robert Baker's guilty pleas and his truthful testimony will finally establish once and for all that Monica Sementilli had nothing to do with the planning or the murder of Fabio Sementilli, her husband.
Investigators say their motive was to collect on Fabio's $1.6 million life insurance policy. His death sent shockwaves through the hair industry and his family.
He was a blessing and a positive influence to people around the world.
A hardworking, self-made man who loved and treasured his family more than anything, who deserved better than to be betrayed by the person he loved and murdered in his own home.
Sementilli was known for his big personality and motivational advice. Here he is in 2015 telling American Salon how he would like to be remembered.
I think about this a lot, you know, when you kind of sit in the backyard, and I say to myself, you know, what do I want to be remembered for? Family, my friendship, my real close friendships. And then I think the third is, for me, all the stylists that I've touched in my life.
So let's get into this relationship between Monica Sementilli, the victim's wife, who's on trial for murder, and Robert Baker, the former porn star who she was allegedly sleeping with. I think it's more than allegedly, but so when they're arrested, they're put into two jail cells next to one another. What you're going to hear right now is them speaking to one another, not on the phone, but speaking because they're in cells next to one another. You won't see them, but you will hear them. Take a listen.
Did you miss that?
Yes, baby. Wow, you caught. Stupid so. We all we have. We all we have. You know, there. I love you, baby.
Yeah. Listen to them. Don't take any pills.
No. We have no defense without each other. And you need me as much as I need you.
How does it look, be writing to you after they told me they found your DNA? Did you read the part about, what's that?
You know,
What's that?
You know, there's a lot of mixed feelings out there, you know. But that's an old life.
Yeah.
It's time for a new one.
Yeah.
My new one's with my baby.
I think my favorite part is they're whispering so no one will hear them. How about that? So this back and forth brings us to the first question in our investigation, and it's about the defendant and the convicted killer. Was Monica Sementilli in love with Robert Baker? Probably a little connected to the motive, right? The alleged motive here. Joining me to help answer this question, criminal defense attorney in Los Angeles, former prosecutor and host of the Courtroom Confidential podcast, Josh Ritter, and psychotherapist, author, and host of Talking Live and the Bite Size podcast, Dr. Robbie Ludwig. Great to have you both here. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, I want your reaction, though, to that little session back and forth. Nobody can hear us. While they're in jail, arrested, they're next to each other. What are you hearing there? Is this a love story about these two?
Well, it's a deranged love story if it's a love story, and nothing's sexier than a secret. So I think Monica thought she was in love with Robert. Whether it's true love or not, it's really hard to say, because it sounds like it was a very sexual relationship, and in some cases that can cloud what love really is. I don't know if Monica knows what love really is, but it sounds like if you asked her, she would say yes, because she thought this was maybe the love of her life.
This is important, Josh, in the case, because this is part of the motive, right? You're talking about she loves him, doesn't love her husband.
No, absolutely. I think if the prosecution needs for the jurors to believe that they were in love, I don't even know if you want to call it love. I think for the prosecution, they wanted to be obsession, that she was obsessed with him and he was obsessed with her, and they were so obsessed with this life outside of her marriage and living without her husband and having the money still around, that they were willing to go as far as murder. And so I think a lot of jurors sitting here listening.
Are you saying middle-aged crazy? That sounds like middle-aged crazy, right?
I think it's.
Go ahead, finish your thought, Josh.
No, I think it's a little bit of that. I think it's a little bit of whatever, some sort of twisted love, but more than anything, it's two people who were so hell-bent on a life beyond the lives that they were living that they were willing to commit murder to achieve that.
Okay, now, Dr. Robbie talked about the lust and some of the other. I'm going to play you something. Listen, I don't write this stuff. It's just part of the case, part of the story. Here's the prosecutor in her opening statement.
You will hear that on June 28th of 2018, while in the courthouse lockup behind this courthouse, Baker managed to pass a toothpaste. As you tube here, you see fresh mint, a small size toothpaste tube to the defendant, along with various jail letters. You're going to hear that DNA analysis was conducted on the contents of that toothpaste tube. It was determined by the Sheriff's Crime Lab, DNA analyst Leslie Thompson, to contain Baker's semen that he was passing to the defendant.
I warned you. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, is that love?
Well, it's interesting. I love what you said about they were obsessed with each other. And I think you can hear the Bonnie and Clyde reference, that they were living in their own romantic, murderous fantasy. They were the stars of their own secretive, love affair. And that was very special to both of them. And also, when something is somewhat of a secret, it doesn't see the light of day. It's not really touched with reality. And so that remains kind of untouched by anything that would taint their love affair, because they weren't living in everyday life, paying the bills, dealing with just a lot of realities that can squash that romantic fantasy. So they were immature in a way, in a very deranged way. And it took a murderous turn. So there's a sociopathic element there as well. But they would probably say that they were madly in love. And it sounds like even Robert is still protecting Monica. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, and did you see, Josh, how Dr. Robbie Ludwig quickly moved on from the toothpaste tube? Very quick. Smart. Well done. I don't know if that's like a former porn star's version of a bouquet of roses. I don't know. But let's do this. Let's listen to more.
Probably.
Yeah. We don't write it. We just report on it. Here's the prosecutor talking more now about some of the things that Monica allegedly did.
Here you can see a sexually provocative drawing by the defendant where she writes on the letter property of Monica Baker, claiming Baker as her own. You can see up close on the photo drawing on the right a ring on the wedding finger with Baker's initials RB. Again, another sexual drawing by the defendant where she again uses R or D for ride or die, Mrs. Robert L. Baker for the signature, referring to the defendant as her husband and soulmate, and indicating in writing expressly that you are everything to me. Again, a portion of a letter where the defendant sends it to Baker, telling him that she needs him. I need all of you. I love you. I can't wait to see you again, my love. Yours eternally, Monica/Madonna Baker. The defendant is showing you and showing her daughter an ink tattoo on the back of her neck. Her daughter Isabella asks, "What does it say?" And the defendant says, "Ride or die."
This is bad, Josh, for her. I mean, this looks like she really is like head over heels, like not like a virgin like Madonna, but like head over heels for this guy.
Yeah, and you know, the doctor makes such a good point too. It's like this very juvenile version of love. I mean, the letters with the drawings and the I love you and all these little secret initials and passwords that they have for each other. This isn't like what you would expect as two people, you know, who have children of their own and should be adults, but instead they're acting like, you know, this kind of fantasized version of love. And I think that's part of it too, is they were like drunk and obsessed with this fantasy of this life that they were going to live, where that's, you know, the both of them against the world, ride or die, and I think they thought truly that they would get away with this, that they would commit this murder, it would all settle down, she would inherit the money, and they would go on to live this fantasy life that they had both probably talked about for hours amongst themselves.
And Josh Ritter, you are so good. You always set up the next segment so perfectly. Coming up next, was money a motive for murder? And in death, she stands to inherit, assuming she's not found guilty, $2,233,349.
That's correct.
A true crime tragedy out of Tennessee.
This case is unlike anything I've ever been involved in.
A 15-month-old, Evelyn Boswell, goes missing and is later found dead on her family's compound.
Her own teenage mother charged with little Evelyn's murder.
This little girl was let down by everyone in her life who was supposed to protect her.
So for purposes of our analysis, because he didn't have a will that designated where his assets would go upon his death, we used the traditional inheritance rules. So anything that was not already designated with a certain beneficiary went to his spouse upon his death.
Some significant testimony there talking about the money. So he didn't have a will. So he didn't say this much for the children, this much for my spouse. It was without a will. So she would get pretty much everything that wasn't designated to someone else. So we've talked about love. We've talked about lust. We've talked about toothpaste for some reason. Now let's talk about the money. Here's the forensic accountant trying to explain to the jury the difference between getting a divorce versus my spouse dies. What's the difference in terms of dollars and cents? Take a listen.
The estate being worth $2,262,915. In a divorce situation, she would be looking to inherit approximately $727,000, correct?
She would receive.
Not inherit. She would get, because he hasn't died in a divorce, correct?
That's correct. That's the amount that we could verify.
Okay. And in death, she stands to inherit, assuming she's not found guilty, $2,233,349.
That's correct.
So the difference, again, between what she stands to inherit versus what she would have gotten under a divorce scenario is approximately $1.5 million.
That's correct.
That's a pretty big deal. 1.5 million brings us to the next question in our investigation, which is, was money a motive for murder here? You heard the forensic accountant, $727,000 in a divorce, but $2.2 million if he died. Still with me, attorney Josh Ritter, and joining me, trial attorney in Los Angeles, Liana Kachatrian is with us as well. Great to have you with us. Let's do this, because this is half the story. We know every witness gets cross-examined, so let's take a look first at the cross-examination of that same forensic accountant.
So Mrs. Sementilli, upon the death of her husband, had cashed into those options because she was aware of them, she would have gotten $935,000 all to herself because there was no will? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Well, do you know the price of Procter & Gamble at the time of January 20th, 2017?
Not off the top of my head.
How did you get to this figure of $935,000?
That is the value as of February 2024.
Okay, and how would you calculate the value as of February 2024? How'd you get to that figure?
The number of shares times the share price.
The share price in 2024.
That's correct.
But do you know the share price in 2017 at the time of Mr. Sementilli's death?
I do not.
Well, wouldn't that be the amount of money that Mrs. Sementilli received at the time of his death if she received those options, whatever the value of the stock was at that time?
The calculation, I understand what you're asking. The amount that she would have, I did not calculate that.
But that is the amount, whatever that amount is the amount that she could have obtained from those options had she exercised them at the time of his death or within a few months of that.
I don't know what the company's obligations were, but I did not calculate that amount.
What if I told you that the value of those options on January 20th, 2017 was $74,730? Would that sound right to you?
I do not know.
How about that moment on cross-examination? Let me ask you, Liana, so if in fact she's calculating the value in 2024 and it's like $700,000 more than the lawyer says it was back in 2017, was money a motive for murder in this case?
Well, look, I think that the prosecution is doing a great job presenting this regardless, right? Because we're hearing testimony not just from the forensic accountant, but we're also hearing testimony from Luigi, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But I don't think that she's sitting there doing this calculation. I mean, everything we've seen so far, all roads kind of lead to this amateur hour couple who, you know, are thinking, all right, there's this much money in the estate, there's this much money in life insurance, you know, maybe this is the only way out. And I just don't know if she's sitting there and doing these calculations or if she's even aware at the time that, you know, what the stock values are. I think that we have enough evidence here to support the prosecution stance that money was the motive here, right? And I think that's based on her behavior, her conduct after the murder, you know, so I don't think that just this portion in cross-examination is damning enough.
Josh Ritter, what are your thoughts here? Because it's always, right, with these types of cases, divorce versus murder, right? And is the money enough to be the motive here?
I thought that cross-examination was incredibly effective because the prosecution wants this figure, this number that she would have been able to inherit, to be jaw-dropping to the jury. They want to hear it. It is such a large amount of money that it might motivate someone to kill somebody else. But when you're able to chip away at that and you're able to say, well, you didn't do the calculation properly, and this is not exactly what those stocks were worth at the time that the murder took place, that calls into question all of that. Listen, $2 million, $1 million, whatever it is, it's a large amount of money. Believe me, I would love to be handed a check for that. But the question for the jurors is that so much money that you could see someone killing their husband over it? And that's really the question. I don't think it's so enormous. The jurors are going to say, oh, absolutely, that's what she was doing. It certainly is a benefit to her, but is it really enough for her to murder her own husband?
And, you know, you talk about California. My understanding in California divorce, it's 50-50, Liana, that you're guaranteed half. It's not like, oh, he's going to get a better lawyer than me and he's going to get more money. And it's not like I'm cheating on him and I'm going to get less money. Regardless of what happened, 20 years of marriage, you're getting at least half of this. So this is I think this is an important number and an important calculation for the jury.
Correct. I agree with you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. And I agree it's not an astronomical number, right? But we're also talking, you know, the murder happened in 2017, right? So we have to take that into consideration as well. But also, again, everything that we've seen so far is suggesting that these are not people who are acting in accordance with societal norms, right? I mean, people kill for all sorts of reasons. And although I agree that this is a number that is going to be shocking to the jury, right? I don't think that in totality of all the evidence that, you know, it took a huge dip on the prosecution's case.
I get it. I get it. I mean, everything that they're doing is not along societal norms. They're like out there. There's something else going on here. Great point. Okay, we've got more to get to. How about the children? Whose side are the kids on? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the murder of celebrity hairstylist Fabio Sementilli. It's a murder that investigators thought was a robbery turned deadly, but now they think it was a murder plot fueled by sex, money, and a former porn star. Fabio Sementilli was a celebrity hairstylist from Canada living a great life in Los Angeles. He made a great living, owned a beautiful home, and was married to his beautiful wife, Monica. Unfortunately, things were not as great as they seemed. There was infidelity in the marriage. Monica was cheating on Fabio. She was seeing a man named Rob Baker. He was a racquetball instructor and former adult movie star. Rob is also an admitted killer who took the life of Fabio in his own backyard. He pleaded no contest, but prosecutors believe Rob did not act alone. He had help from Christopher Austin, and they also allege Monica was part of the conspiracy. And now Monica Sementilli is on trial for her husband's murder. So how about the family? I want you to take a listen to some testimony from Luigi Sementilli. This is Fabio's son.
Did you have a close relationship with both Jessica and Isabella prior to the murder of your father?
Prior to the murder, yes.
Would you say that relationship has dramatically changed after your father's murder?
Yes, that would be an understatement.
There's a lot of tension inside of this family. Let's take a look at the family tree so you understand how everyone is related here, because it's important. We begin by taking a look at Fabio Sementilli. He's the celebrity hairstylist. He's the victim in the case. Luigi Sementilli, you just saw him testify. That is his son from a previous marriage. Now, Monica Sementilli was his wife of 20 years, and Isabella Sementilli is their daughter who found her father, Fabio, dead at home. She's the one who called 911. And Jessica Sementilli is another one of Monica and Fabio's daughters. So together they had 2 girls. He had a son from a prior relationship. And that brings us to the next question in our investigation. And it's about the children. Whose side are the kids on? I've covered so many of these spousal murder cases. And almost inevitably, they side with the surviving spouse and never want to believe that their mother or their father could have committed a crime like that. But let's take a closer look at this one. Joining me, criminal defense attorney in Los Angeles. He's also a former prosecutor and host of the Courtroom Confidential podcast, Josh Ritter, and psychotherapist, author, and the host of Talking Live and the Bite Size podcast, Dr. Robbie Ludwig. Okay. Let's take a listen to a little bit more of Luigi Sementilli talking about the family dynamics after the murder.
Have you spoken to the defendant since her arrest in June 14th of 2017?
I have not.
Sometime at the end of June or even into July of 2017, did you receive a communication from your sister, Jessica?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is that yes?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did Jessica communicate to you?
Jessica's...
It's overruled on both grounds.
Go ahead.
Yep. Jessica texted me and said, Mom wants to talk to you.
Okay. And what was your response?
I said no.
So she told you that the defendant wanted to call you from jail?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes, sorry, that's yes.
And you declined?
And I declined.
Would it be fair to say that the defendant's arrest and some of the information that you and your family received has caused a large
relevance, argument.
Finish your question, please.
Rift in your family?
It's overruled on the second ground and the first.
I can answer?
Sure.
Yeah, not only would it be fair to say that, but it's absolutely the truth. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a very limited relationship at this point with your 2 sisters?
That's correct.
Since the defendant's arrest, have they come to Canada to visit you and your father's family at all?
A few times, yeah.
They visited with your father's side of the family?
Sorry, good point. Let me clarify. When they come to town, they'll make time to go out to lunch with me, but they don't speak or see the rest of my dad's family. It's me and one other cousin, my cousin Daniel, that they will tolerate as like a safe space for when they visit and we go out to lunch. But other than that, no, they don't talk to my dad's side of the family whatsoever and haven't in almost 8 years.
Obviously, incredibly tragic, Dr. Robbie Ludwig, but some of this is almost, I've seen this pattern before when you have a half sibling. There's sometimes a split among the children, and it seems clear to me, I think it probably seems clear to you too, that he believes that Monica, who I guess he did refer to as mom, even though it was his stepmom, he believes she's guilty.
Yeah. So it's very possible here that the son and half-sibling, can see the situation more objectively. He doesn't have the same investment to believe that Monica's innocent. If she's not innocent, he's not losing a mother. He may be losing a step-parent, but it sounds like he may have access to different information. He's a product of a different relationship. And again, he can see Monica and the dynamics of the family from a very different vantage point. If the daughters are to accept that their mother is a murderer, then they also have to accept that as their mother being a part of who they are, they would have to accept that they are connected to somebody who can murder. And that is very difficult to do. There might be a lot of denial. I mean, what does it mean if you have a mother who's able to kill? What does that mean for your relationship with that mother? Are you safe? So it brings up a lot of questions, but it makes sense that the daughters would be in denial, have a need to believe their mother is good, where the stepson wouldn't have the same investment and also has access to different information.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen cases with adult children like that where there's DNA on the murder weapon and they still will not believe that my mom or my dad killed my other parent. Let's take a listen to Fabio's sister, who testified as well, talking about the dynamics inside this family.
You have remained close with your nieces, Bella and Jessica?
No.
You have come down and visited them?
No.
Is there any reason not?
It breaks my heart to have to say this, but they were very disrespectful. They were unfortunately asked to not communicate with us with regards to anything about my brother.
Objection calls for hearsay speculation.
Sustain on the second ground.
I had asked for some property of my brother's for my mom. My mom was asking about some things she wanted, that she didn't have anything to remember her son by. And they replied to me so many rude times, saying that it belongs to their mother and that not sending anything to my mother. And I tried to reach out. There was just so many times where they never replied to me. They didn't welcome me. I came to pre-trials. They didn't want to see me. And their mother, their grandmother and aunt were there all the time, right after the arrest. So I had a very hard time getting through or getting to visit them.
Isn't it true, Ms. Sementilli, that you sent Jessica Sementilli a text where you referred to her as a bitch and a
No.
No further questions.
Okay, Josh Ritter, how does this play? How does this impact the jury as they try to figure out what happened in this family that clearly has been shattered by this murder?
Yeah, that's really the point, too, is, you know, I agree with you, Vinnie, that you see these types of cases and it absolutely rips families apart, and you'll have some siblings and family members that support one side and some that support the other. But as far as moving the needle for the jurors, I feel so bad for these two girls. They lost their father to murder, and now their mother's accused of murder, and they might be losing her to prison for the rest of their lives. And what are they supposed to do? So the idea that they are supporting their mother, I don't know if that really moves the needle with the jurors. I don't think it's shocking to them. I think they kind of would expect it. I tell you what would be interesting is if they weren't supporting their mother, if they were testifying against their mother, then that might be incredibly persuasive to the jurors. But the fact that these two girls with only one parent now left on earth are going to be in support of that parent, I don't think is shocking to anybody. And I don't think it really, like I said, moves the needle for the jurors.
Dr. Robbie, what happens to these two young women if their mother gets convicted? How do they reconcile that? How do they live the rest of their lives?
I think they're going to have to discover what the truth is for them. And if they feel that their mother actually did contribute to this murder? Do they forgive her? Do they find a pathway of understanding? They would have to go through their own therapy and their own treatment to see what they're willing and capable of understanding and how they want to move forward. This is traumatic any way that you look at it. So these girls are going to have a lot of trauma that they're going to have to work through. And that's going to include whatever type of relationship they decide to have with their mother, who at this point is quite questionable.
Yeah, and I hope there's a repaired relationship with their brother, because siblings, at the end of the day, if everything goes right, the parents pass away first and the siblings are left with one another. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, thank you so much for joining us. Josh is going to stay with us. Still to come, how about the convicted killer? What will Robert Baker say?
I'll take the blame. I know, but I'll take the blame. I'll rock it.
It was the biggest story in the world.
People saw the facts differently.
Somebody manufactured evidence in this case.
This was kind of a crazy spectacle.
This case is a circus.
He was an icon. They are in for the fight of their lives.
Everybody thinks you're guilty. Trial and Error. Why did O.J. win? Premieres Sunday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
We are confident that Robert Baker's guilty pleas and his truthful testimony will finally establish once and for all that Monica Sementilli had nothing to do with the planning or the murder of Fabio Sementilli, her husband.
Baker said he was going to lie, that he's going to testify for her, that she was not involved, and he's going to take the blame.
So Robert Baker, the former adult film star, admitted he did all this. He went into court and admitted it all. But now everyone's wondering about his story and his testimony. You heard the prosecutor say, oh, he's going to lie. And then the defense saying, no, he's going to come in and tell the truth about what happened and exonerate Monica Sementilli. So I want to go back to a recording. This is after Robert and Monica are arrested. They're in jail cells next to one another, and they're speaking to each other. You don't see them on video, but you can hear their conversation, which I don't think they necessarily know is being recorded. So let's take a listen to that.
I'll take it to my I'll take the blame. I know, but I'll take the blame. I'll rock it.
The cameras. The cameras. I guess she noticed that something could have been recorded there. Brings us to a very important question in our investigation, and it's about the admitted killer. What will Robert Baker say if and when he's called to the stand by the defense? What will Robert Baker say? Still with me, attorney Josh Ritter, and joining me, trial attorney in Los Angeles, Liana Kachatrian is with us. All right, Liana, what do you think he's going to say at the end? He said, I'll lie, I'll lie. Well, what's the lie? Will he lie? Will he tell the truth? What is the truth? How's this going to play out?
Well, it sounds like based on those recordings, the truth is that he's going to take the fall for her, right? But according to the defense, the truth is that he did it, and Sementilli, Monica had nothing to do with it. So I can't wait to see if and when he takes the stand what he's going to say. But I think that his motive here is that, look, he's already going to spend the rest of his life in prison, right? So, you know, when you're talking about this couple that has this like weird obsessive relationship, I think that he is very likely to take the stand and maintain that she knew nothing about it, because what does he have to lose, right? So this might just be his way of helping his lover, somebody who he's obsessed with, and helping her to spare her life, maybe.
So, Josh, this has been very confusing for a lot of us, myself included. He says, I won't take a deal. He didn't take a deal. He admitted it. Now, what type of plea did he enter? Was this a guilty plea? Was this a no contest plea? What was it, and what was the significance of it, and how could that impact what we're going to hear from him?
My understanding is he took a no contest plea. That doesn't really matter. No contest, guilty, whatever. He pled to life without parole, which is nearly unheard of. I mean, that is the maximum exposure he was looking at. So he really didn't benefit at all for taking a plea. And so I think the defense will use that, if he ever does testify, to their benefit. They're going to say, listen, here's a person with nothing to really gain out of this. He got nothing. He's going to prison for the rest of his life. All he has here is to tell you folks the truth and leave it up to the jurors to believe whether or not he's credible. And then you juxtapose that to the prosecution's star witness, who is the other person that was there that took part in the killings, Christopher Austin, and he got 16 years to life, but nevertheless eligible for parole at 16 years. That is quite a motivation to tell something favorable to the people who gave you that deal. And I think these are the arguments that the defense is going to make.
And Josh, just a quick follow-up on the plea. The no contest plea or nolo contendere in some other jurisdictions generally are people who go in and say, well, you have enough evidence to convict me, but sometimes they don't really admit what they did. If that's his plea, if he's just saying you have enough evidence, but if he testifies, he's going to have to say he did it, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, otherwise he's not helpful to her cause at all. The no contest plea has kind of become a practice in Los Angeles, where a lot of defendants will take that plea. It really does not have an advantage to them in the criminal context, but they like to plead no contest rather than actually having the words guilty come out of their mouth. But you're absolutely right. If he does testify, and it is for Monica's benefit, he's going to have to say, I did everything. And listen, his DNA is there. So he's cooked. He's already pled. His DNA is there. He's going to have to say he was involved in this, but he did it entirely on his own, without her knowing, without her knowledge, without her help. And it was for them to live this life together, but she had no idea that he had these plans.
So, Liana, if you have the battle of these two convicts going at each other, one got a deal. We have about 20 seconds here. Do you think the jury takes that into consideration in determining credibility here?
I think they will, and I think credibility is going to be an issue for the both of them, right? I mean, how do we know he didn't lie initially when he pled no contest, right? So I think the jury really is going to have to weigh all the evidence, how everybody testifies, and everything that's presented to them in determining whether he is being truthful, whatever that truth may be.
Liana Kachatrian and Josh Ritter, great to have you both on the show. Thank you so much. We'll see you again very soon. Now, when killers in a conspiracy plead guilty, they usually take a deal. They testify for prosecutors, providing direct evidence, and they get some sort of a reduced sentence. I always take that type of testimony, though, with a huge grain of salt. But in this case, Robert Baker didn't take a deal and will testify for the defense. And I'm wondering, does this guy have any reason to lie? Is his love that deep for this woman? I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for the answers as the investigation continues.